Welcome to today's edition of the Rush 24/7 podcast.
Hey, folks, you know the Harvey Weinstein story? This thing just keeps building now. 3 women have accused him of rape. It's in a New Yorker story by Ronan Farrow. Ronan Farrow is the daughter of Mia Farrow. And remember, he used to do a show for a week on MSNBC. Had never been on TV before. He won the Cronkite Journalism Award after his first night on TV. I'll never forget that. Brian Williams, these guys, we've been doing this for 30 years. We haven't won jack, whatever. And this guy one night, and he gets the Cronkite Award. Anyway, he's got this story. And in this story, exactly what I told you. In this story, you'll see all over it. You'll see the names Roger Ailes. You'll see the story, and you'll see the names Bill O'Reilly. You know the name you will not see in, this story's long, 8,000 words. I don't know what it is. You know the name you won't see in this story? Bill Clinton. You do not see the name Bill Clinton in the story of Harvey Weinstein at all in the New Yorker, and you really have to look hard to find the name Bill Clinton in many of the other stories. There's something, can somebody tell me if you've heard this, because I haven't. Has anybody heard anybody defending Harvey say, come on, it didn't affect the way Harvey did his job? Come on, everybody does it. Remember the old Bill Clinton defense? You haven't heard anybody say that about Harvey? Well, you know, Donna Karan came out and did defend Harvey until the blowback happened, and then she walked it back, claiming she was taken out of context. Let's listen. Let's grab audio soundbite number 1. This is, by the way, greetings and welcome. Great to have you here, folks. There's a major story today that may be underneath your radar that I want to get into later. There is an increasing, nothing to do with Weinstein or any of this stuff. It's to do with Trump. I'm seeing more and more stories, and it's related to this whole Corker snafu, that Trump really isn't president, that Kelly and Mattis and Tillerson have seized the office and are openly defying Trump on everything. The purpose of the stories is to put forth 2 propositions. One, of course, that Trump is a dangerous idiot, like Corker says, on the verge of starting World War III, and veterans of the swamp literally have to countermand him on virtually everything. And, of course, the second aspect of the story is a constitutional crisis. If that's really happening, for example, if the intelligence community people, like the NSA and the CIA and those people, and the military are actually running the country by defying Trump, then is there a constitutional crisis going on? And I want to address those as only I can in due course. And I promise you it's going to be today. This is not something that I'll not have time to get to. But I want to get this Weinstein stuff out of the... Oh, speaking of which, we have a statement from Bill Clinton on this. He somehow strangely is omitted in all of these stories. It's uncanny. Like this thing from the New Yorker that just popped. You see Ailes' name all over it. You see O'Reilly's name all over it. It's a story. 3 women have accused Weinstein of rape. That's 2 more than have accused Clinton of rape. So I guess Hillary can take some solace in that. But still, you don't find Bill Clinton's name in this or many of the other stories. But Bill Clinton has a statement on the upcoming rehabilitation of Harvey.
Now, William Jefferson Clinton on the rehabilitation of Harvey Weinstein.
My fellow Americans, I'm here today on behalf of an old family friend, Harvey Weinstein, who is right now making amends for some unfortunate
come on,
behavior. But it will take some time. Harvey is an old dinosaur learning new tricks.
Come back to Papa.
Trick number 1. No. Harvey, shut the door.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Everyone in Hollywood loves Harvey's power and money, and we will forgive and forget the fact that for a moment he lost control of himself and acted like Donald Trump for
30 years.
30 years. Soon, he will be a changed man who respects women for who they are, not for their Trick number 2, wait until you are rehabilitated to do it again.
William Jefferson Clinton on the rehabilitation efforts of Harvey Weinstein. That was obviously produced in a hotel suite somewhere. It's great to have you here, folks, as we're off and running on another 3 hours of broadcast excellence. Here's Donna Karan. Donna Karan's a good friend of Barbra Streisand. I'm just gossiping here, throwing things out there that I know. She started the Donna Karan clothing line, DKNY. And what she essentially said, she had a statement last night. She was at some fashion film awards event. And she spoke with reporters about allegations of sexual harassment against Harvey Weinstein. She basically said, now, this is a woman that designs clothes for women to wear. And she said, is it maybe our fault? Is it maybe the women's fault? Are these women dressing too sensuously, too sexually? Here's how it sounded.
I think we have to look at ourselves. How do we display ourselves? How do we present ourselves as women? What are we asking? Are we asking for it? You know, by presenting all the sensuality and all the sexuality? You know, and what are we throwing out to our children today?
Holy cliche, Batman, for crying out loud. Do you realize how this sets back the movement of the feminazis? This is the kind of thing that in the early days of this, that men would offer as a defense. Hey, look at the way they're presenting themselves to me. They're coming in here, they're scantily clad, they're showing off things, they're walking seductively. They want it. Remember guys would say that? And remember how they were raked over the coals, being insensitive and disrespectful? Here comes Donna Karan, who is the generation of Streisand, so she'd be, about 95 now? And she's echoing these sentiments. Blame the women. Blame the victim. I'm surprised it took hours for her to walk this back, but it did. Now, here is the same. We have another soundbite here from the same event she was at, this Fashion Film Awards event, dinner, whatever it was. She continued speaking.
I don't think it's only Harvey Weinstein. I don't think we're only looking at him. I think we're looking at a world much deeper than that. He's being looked at right now, you know, as a symbol, not necessarily as him. I know his wife. I think they're wonderful people. Harvey's done some amazing things. I think we have to look at our world and what we want to say and how we want to say it as well. It's not Harvey Weinstein. You look at everything all over the world today, you know, and how women are dressing and, you know, what they're asking by just presenting themselves the way they do. What are they asking for? Trouble.
They're wearing her clothes. She designs the clothes that these babes wear. She now says they're asking for trouble. They're presenting themselves the way they do, and that's asking for trouble. This is before she walked it back. You talk about tone deaf. You talk about being not connected to the present. This is just, I read this last night. I said, somebody has to be amplifying this a little bit. Nobody could be this, particularly on the left. I mean, Donna Karan is as loyal a leftist as you will find anywhere. She can't explain much of it, but she's there. And she believes it. She doesn't know why. She's one of those. It's just the thing to be, given the business and industries that she is in. But this kind of boggles the mind. So now she's walked it back after the predictable uproar and is claiming that she was taken out of context. She just was taken out of context out there. Well, it's hard to know what the right context would be. But, I mean, the UK Daily Mail was all over this. Donna Karan comes to Harvey Weinstein's defense, suggesting his victims may have been asking for it. And this caused all kinds of reaction from noted Hollywood actresses like Rose McGowan. now we had Clooney has weighed in. Yeah, it's bad, but I've known Harvey all these years, and I never knew any of this was going on. I had no idea. I heard a rumor. I didn't know any of this was going on. Yeah, there was talk, but I didn't know any of this was. Nobody who knew Harvey. Now, I remember Harvey and I would go out. I never heard a thing about it. It was just incredible the lengths to which people are going. Donna Brazile. I said the other day that the Democrats do not know how to innovate, that they've got a playbook that tells them what to say, when to say it, about any issue that comes up. It's not relevant to present time. It's just a standard cliche response. Hillary is famous for them. Well, Donna Brazile, a former Democrat National Committee chairwoman, Donna Brazile, deleted a tweet praising the Weinstein Company for taking the lead against sexual assault after they fired Harvey. So this is exactly what I mean. Harvey Weinstein admits to paying off, well, he admits to mistreating. I don't know if he is admitted to the 8 payoffs, but the 8 women paid off. Now, New Yorkers alleging 3 women say he raped them. It's getting worse. And in the midst of this, they fire Harvey. And they announce they're going to change the name of the Weinstein Company to the Popsicle Company or whatever it is. And Donna Brazile, whoa, that's the right thing. That's a great, they've changed. So she tweets out praise for the Weinstein Company taking the lead against sexual assault after they fired Weinstein. This is a classic, perfunctory, formulaic response that's in the Democrat playbook that is tone deaf and is unaware of present activity, things. How in the world do you praise the Weinstein Company for taking the lead against sexual assault? What she thinks she's doing is being loyal to a donor. Well, the Weinstein Company wasn't the donor. Harvey was. But she thinks that she's being loyal to a donor. She thinks that she's showing proper respect to a donor. And it's entirely tone deaf because all she did, she probably doesn't need the playbook because in many pages she probably wrote it. So event happens, programmed response is called for, and she utters it without any awareness of how hypocritical, ironic, or tone deaf that it is. The Weinstein, and this tweet was yesterday or Sunday. This is Tuesday. This tweet was Sunday. The Weinstein Company has taken the lead against sexual harassment and assault because they got rid of Harvey. The Donna Brazile is so used to doing PR for Democrats, so used to formulaically defending them. She just naturally tried to spin the story for the Weinstein Company because they're good Democrat loyal donors. But this is as tone deaf as Hillary's tweet back in November 2015 when she tweeted at the height of sexual assaults on campus hysteria, every survivor of sexual assault deserves to be heard, believed, and supported. This is from the woman who ran the Limbaugh eruptions unit in the Clinton White House, whose purpose was to destroy any women that came forth and alleged that Bill Clinton had done anything to them. And that's, now, you may be saying, and if you are, it's a good question. So, Rush, big deal. So they're formulaic. So the reason I mention that, it's not just the talk. It's part and parcel of my belief that these people are ripe for being defeated, folks. Remember, it's all about that as far as I'm concerned. These people have to be defeated in the arena of ideas and at the ballot box and in the culture. They have to be defeated. And so if they're this inept, if they're this formulaic and out of touch, to me, it makes them easier targets. There's no reason to be afraid of them. There's no reason to fear them, even though the media is on their side. This is my point in pointing this out. The fact that it's a formulaic response and is tone deaf and maybe even be hypocritical means nothing in and of itself, other than these people are not as brilliant as everybody thinks. But the real point about it is they aren't innovating. They are not living in 2017 with their policies, their issues, their agenda. They are ripe for defeat, is my point. And this is something that should instill confidence in the people fighting them, that they're not, as so many people believe, unbeatable, that they are not formidable. They're actually antiques, and they are ripe for being defeated in the arena of ideas. Let me take a break here so we don't get behind. We'll come back and continue. Much more, as always, after this. Oh, yeah. We're going to get to the NFL and Jamel Hill, a genuine radical, and ESPN and the Trumpster. In fact, I have I'm going to fold all that into what Trump is actually doing here in this story that the generals and the intelligence departments, agencies have taken over running the country and are in open defiance of Trump. Those stories are from people that you would have thought are conservative by virtue of their names and their past, but they have become so addled with anger and rage. I think what's really driving a lot of these so-called conservatives is that their influence has been demonstrated to be nil. They devoted their magazines and their commentary to defeating Trump, and it didn't happen. And so now they're just angry and throwing whatever up against the wall and seeing if it'll stick. But it is nevertheless serious charge that Trump is being openly defied by the swamp and members of the swamp in his administration. So why did he fire him if that's happening? I have a theory that I will espouse as the program unfolds. But to wrap up this Weinstein stuff, the Daily Beast reporting today that the New York PD was ready to arrest Harvey Weinstein. A woman went to the Special Victims Unit after an encounter with Weinstein, and they wanted her to wear a wire and go back to a meeting which she had told Harvey she would not meet him the next day. They wanted her to go back with a wire and get him on tape, admitting what he had done the day before and then doing whatever he did. The woman's name was Ambra Batalana. She excused herself to use the restroom, met by a detective from SVU, which had been using 2 cell phones to record a meeting in March of 2015. By the time it was all over, the New York Police Department said they didn't have not enough to charge a felony, but they were ready to. That's how many complaints they had been receiving. And as a result, they were watching Weinstein. I don't know to what extent he was under surveillance, but he was on the radar. Now, all that means is that this is pretty serious stuff. You know, this is it's gone beyond the realm here of Hollywood gossip and gotcha. You know, something else that I thought of when all this was happening, and this was an original thought that I have since abandoned as an explanation. But, you know, setups like this happen all the time. There are law firms and there are people who try to set up people and get them to behave in embarrassing / illegal / compromising positions, all for the purposes of blackmailing them or suing them. And when I first heard it's Hollywood, we're talking about Hollywood, where cutthroat competition and personal envy and rivalries are off the charts. I've since rejected that that's a factor here, but it does happen. People attempt to entrap people all the time. We'll be back. Don't go away. Greetings and welcome back. Your guiding light, Rush Limbaugh, on the cutting edge of societal evolution. Having more fun than a human being should be allowed to have. Harvey Weinstein's name is to be removed from all the TV shows he produced. The Weinstein Company also wants to change its name in addition to taking Harvey's name off of anything they've ever produced, TV, movies, whatever. The name Harvey Weinstein being purged from Hollywood on Monday. Deadline reported the Weinstein Company is removing Harvey's producer credit from any TV series he's worked on. They plan to wipe it from upcoming movie releases. They also report that The Weinstein Company's auditioning ad agencies to change its company name altogether. That's the Soviet style. You know, the way you get rid of problems is change the name. Also, what else? Well, I don't think Harvey could even survive airbrushing. I mean, that is one ugly... You know something? Something else about this. I was reading my tech blogs, and even Apple's trying to get in on the We Hate Harvey Now bandwagon. Apparently there's some Elvis Presley biopic or some such thing that you can rent or buy on iTunes. And Apple made a big deal out of saying, it's not available. We've pulled it. You can't buy it. You can't rent it because that pig, Harvey Weinstein, had something. They didn't say pig. But, I mean, that is what is implied. We also have Mrs. Clinton, ladies and gentlemen. Not only did she tweet that all women claiming abuse have the right to be believed, she said so. This is campaign website, YouTube channel, September 14th, 2015. This was part of a new ad that Hillary had released. Hillary's message to survivors of sexual assault. I'm not laughing at the premise. I'm laughing at the title. Hillary Clinton's message to survivors of the irony here. Her husband was the predator in chief, and she was the woman that ran the unit in the White House whose objective was to destroy the lives and reputations of any women who might come forward to accuse her husband of having abused them or been in a relationship such as an affair with them. It was Hillary and Betsy Wright ran the Bimbo Eruptions unit. So the irony here is why I'm laughing, and this is from that ad, Hillary's message to survivors of sexual assault.
I want to send a message to every survivor of sexual assault. Don't let anyone silence your voice. You have a right to be heard, and you have a right to be believed. We're with you.
No, she is not. She hasn't said a word about Harvey. And, you know, here's another thing. All of these Democrat groups and some candidates have announced very righteously that they are recirculating Harvey's donations. They are not keeping the money. They are getting rid of it. The money is foul. The money from Harvey is tainted, and they want nothing to do with it. I'm not sure I believe it. Like the DNC is taking 10% of what Harvey donated and sending it to people like Planned Parenthood. They're just redistributing it to other Democrat groups. But, you know, we never see. And this dovetails into a point that I'm going to be making about Trump here in just a second. We never see what these people actually do. They make a big deal out of claiming that they're wiping their hands of any Harvey money, and they're going to get rid of it. Now, they're not giving it back. They're honest about that. They say they're going to redirect it or redistribute it, but we never see that. We never see the check or the wire transfer or whatever mechanism is used to take that money out of their account and move it to somebody else's. We never see that. The drive-bys never demand it. These people just get away with saying they're going to do it, and we never know if they actually do. And this, by the way, is the salient point coming up, the way Trump will not let go of this NFL thing. Normally, in the old days of yore, something like this would happen. A powerful Republican would offer a bit of criticism of some institution, and that would be it. The institution would react in mock outrage and make fun of or attack the Republican accuser, and it would be over. Trump is not letting it end. Trump is not stopping until the NFL bends to his will. I'll tell you something. Jerry Jones, the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, the owner of the Dallas Catboys, that's how you have to say it. How about them Catboys? Capboys. How about them Catboys? Jerry Jones owns the Dallas Catboys. And Jerry Jones said, you either stand for the anthem or you don't play. You stand or you're benched. Well, the drive-bys today The sports drive-bys are all asking, what is the NFL going to do to Jerry Jones? How is the NFL going to punish Jerry Jones? Jerry Jones can't do that, is the inference when you read this. What is the league going to do to Jerry Jones? Jerry Jones and the other owners are the league, number one. Number two, what's going to happen, and I've got a little headline link that I just saw here on the Drudge Report. NFL owners consider rules change requiring players to stand. It sounds like what the league is going to do is move in the direction of Jerry Jones. But the sports drive-bys, man, are they hoping the league comes down hard on old Jerry? Jerry can't do this. Jerry can't require his employees to do this, and that is the whole point. These players are talking about their platform. It isn't theirs. How many times, my friends, have I spoken of the field of play in professional sports is the equivalent of the stage? It is. It's the stage. And I'll tell you, when I first made this reference, I'll never forget it. Dusty Baker was the manager, I think, of the San Francisco Giants. I may be getting there. I'm not sure he ever managed the Giants. At any rate, it was a playoff game. And I think it was Dusty Baker. One of the manager's kid, like 5 or 6 years old, was in the dugout watching the game and somehow ended up, I think he was playing bat boy. The owner's kid was wearing a uniform playing bat boy, very, very young, single-digit ages. And the kid ended up dangerously close to home plate where there was going to be a collision. A runner was trying to score. And one of the, I think, Giants players had to scoop up the kid to get him out of the way in the middle of the game. And I remember saying, you don't let people on the stage that don't belong there. You don't let non-performers on the stage. The NFL field is a stage. The stage is owned by the owners. It is their platform. It's their stage. They are the ones that invest and pay for every aspect of each week's games. Now, I know that there are deals with cities and state governments on tax favorability for building the stadium. I'm not trying to get in the weeds here. My point is the players don't own any of it. They are employees like you and me. And any employee taking time out from the job to protest America, the flag or whatever, if you went into McDonald's, you wanted a Happy Meal, and you had to sit there and listen to the clerk or the checkout person preach to you about police brutality and all, what would you do? And would you expect the media to come in and support the so-called right of free speech for McDonald's employees to do this while you await your Happy Meal? Put yourself in any business and have the same thing happen and ask if you would be expected to sit there and put up with it and shut up and not disagree with it. Understand, they have a right. They have a platform. They're protesting the evils of America, and you have to listen to it. What'd you do? You'd walk out of the place. You wouldn't put up with it. You'd tell other people what happened, and nobody else would show up, which is exactly what's happening in the NFL. Last night's ratings, Monday Night Football, in the tank, according to what I just saw. Not a record low, but way, way down. The fact it was a dull game. You know, I didn't watch it, but I'll tell you what I did do. Well, I was working. I'm always working. But it's not work. So, but I mean, to define the activity, I'm working, I'm reading, I'm preparing, I'm remembering, I'm logging, I'm injecting my memory with things that I expect to be there on immediate recall. And I decided to check the game. I had the TV on. I was watching some shows I'd recorded last week, had to get a chance to see. And I tuned in, and the score of the game near the end of the first half was 3-2, and I said, this has got to be the biggest bomb of an NFL Monday night game in recent. 3-2. That means a field goal and a safety, or maybe it was 2-2. I don't know, but it was. And then the next time I checked, it was 17-17 late in the fourth quarter. It looked like they might be heading to overtime, but that didn't happen. And I was telling myself, this is not good. And then I noticed something in all of the, I look at video highlights, and I'm noticing I'm not seeing any more shots of the upper decks at NFL stadiums. And I said to myself, why am I not seeing, wide shots that show the full stadium dynamics? It's because there's some empty seats up there, probably. And the broadcast networks, obviously, their partners are the NFL. They're doing what they can. They're starting to televise the national anthem less. But wait, I thought the players had a platform. I thought the players could demand. No. The players don't own it. The owners do. This is why so many people, led by me, been asking, what are the owners? They've got a choice here. They got one or two choices, and they're choosing to go with the side that's actually hurting them. The way they look at it, either choice they make is going to hurt them. Joe Namath was on Fox. Was it this morning? Yeah, Joe Namath, Joe Willie. And they played a soundbite of me I said that I don't think the NFL knows its audience. The NFL, like so many, like the Democrats, they lead their own polls and believe them. These CEOs and marketing people, advertising people, watch the media, and they really think the country's gone left of center culturally, and that's who they think the audience is. And they're dead wrong about who their audience is, and that's why they side with the players. I think the players are actually exhibiting behavior that reflects a majority of thinking in the country. In other words, the people that run the NFL probably do believe that most of the country is livid at the cops. Because if they watch any news other than Fox, if they read their New York Times, Washington Post, they do, that's the picture of America they get every day. And as incurious as people on the left are, they may believe it. That's why I think that they really misunderstand who their audience is, despite their expertise in marketing and all that. But you can tell who the audience is by looking at the most frequently advertised products. And it's not the wine and brie crowd. Well, anyway, Namath made the point that the Afro-Americans, that's what Al Davis, that's cultural too. At one time, they were Afro-Americans and became African-Americans, and then black, and then went back and forth. But there was a certain era in America's recent past where the term was Afro-American. Al Davis called me one day in the 90s, late 90s, after seeing me talk about tax cuts with Paula Zahn on Fox News. He called me to tell me how his Afro-American players don't understand their position here. That they're part of the wealthy that are being targeted, but they don't think they are because of their life. Anyway, now I got to take a break. I'll not lose my place. Don't forget, it's a great point here coming. Anyway, what I was going to say was Joe Namath was saying that he really relates to the cause of the Afro-Americans and their belief that the police mistreat them and so forth. But then he made the point that he doesn't understand the owners. He doesn't. The owners own the stage. Here, grab audio soundbite number 18 with Steve Ducey and Brian Kilmeade talking to him. Let's see. That's the second bite, but there's 4 of these, and I only need one. Let me. Yeah, we need number 17. Do you think this is crisis time for the NFL? Audio soundbite 17. Here it is.
I'm not sure it's a crisis time. I don't think the sport's ever going to go away. But going back to what Colin Kaepernick initially did, it was to point out some injustice that's being done to the black race or to people that obviously, when you look, and I say obviously, some of these dash cams and shootings that were done to unarmed people and all, he was reaching out to try and get it more investigated. So that's where this oppression thing comes in.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to... I'm going to give Joe a pass in misunderstanding what Kaepernick was up to, because Joe, I know what Joe is doing here, and I don't blame him. He's royalty in the NFL, and he's not going to start causing fights. But this is what he said about the owners.
I don't understand the NFL owners. I mean, here we're working. If somebody walks across here with a sign right now protesting, excuse me, you're going to let them do that? No. Well, initially, when this took place, that's the NFL ownership. They own that theater at the time. They own that stage. Are you going to allow protests out there? They don't allow players to wear different signs on their shoes. They don't allow players
to stand for the national anthem.
You know what? That's because they've been told to. But no one told Colin Kaepernick prior to that they had to. We just assumed it was the right thing to do. It's always been the right thing to do, to live in this country. Thank the good Lord.
Joe is really wanting it both ways here. He goes out of the way to establish understanding and support for Kaepernick and then pulls it back by claiming, why'd the owners let him do it? Which really is the question when you get right down to it. By the way, I love all these people now referring to the field as a stage. We go back to the audio graveyard here and find that I initiated that, at least in the modern era. Probably can't claim original credit. Somebody's obviously said that. But he's right here. Nobody told Kaepernick he can't do it until he'd done it a number of times. Anyway, that sets up what's coming. So hang on, folks. We'll be right back. Fastest 3 hours in media. If you're on the phone, please be patient. Every effort will be made to get to your call today, and as quickly as can be done. So don't go away. By the way, you know what? I just saw something, and it's one of these things that I knew and I should have thought of, and I can lie to you right now and say that I did think of it, but I can't do that. Everybody's asking why. Why hasn't Hillary? Why hasn't Obama? Why hasn't Michelle Mabel? Why haven't they reacted? Why haven't they condemned what Harvey Weinstein did? Why did it take so long? Daniel Greenberg at Front Page Mag has the answer. Look at his donations to Planned Parenthood. He was probably one of the largest financial backers and powerful brokers of the pro-abortion movement in this country. And that alone will buy you absolution of so many sins that you commit elsewhere, it's impossible to list them. But abortion is the sacrament. If you look at the American left, liberalism as a religion, abortion is the sacrament, and that's the big test. And if you do right on that issue, you are buying yourself all kinds of get-out-of-jail-free cards. And Harvey Weinstein was among not just the biggest donors, the biggest attendees at all of these different events and fundraising events all over the world. And he would bring his actors and actresses and put them on the red carpet at these events. He was probably in the top 5 all-important donors, supporters of Planned Parenthood and other pro-abortion causes, and that's why. Greenberg is exactly right. That is it in a nutshell. It is why so many prominent, powerful Democrats will not say a word about him. And it is why it's why Clinton gets a pass. Bill Clinton and others get a pass on everything they do, is because when the rubber meets the road on the issue of abortion, they are 100% liberal pure. Greetings, folks. Great to have you back. Rush Limbaugh here at the one and only EIB network. Telephone number 800-282-2882. Did you see what Trump said? He says he'd win an IQ contest with Tillerson. I'd win an IQ test with Tillerson. Who does this? Who does this? Now, the left, you should see Wolf Blitzer's face is so stern. This is unacceptable. This is trauma. This is traumatic. We're dealing with something really we don't understand here. With an IQ contest with Tillerson. Why not Jeff Sessions? Put him. You've been mad at him too. They don't have the ability to laugh at this. Now, you know what? I'm sure plans are in the works to televise such a thing. Can you imagine a televised pay-per-view event with Trump and Tillerson in an IQ test? I like it just for the impact it has on these stuffed shirts, holier than thou people that just they don't understand why he's ripping somebody's own cabinet. They don't understand. They don't understand, period. Now, let's move forward to the two things about Trump that I want to get to today. One of is this NFL stuff. And it dovetails with another point that I want to make. There are increasingly stories showing up in so-called conservative media, but not just conservative media, but certainly conservative media included, basically say that Donald Trump is really not president. He's got the title, but he's so screwy and he's so off the wall and so dangerous that the adults in the White House are countermanding practically every order he gives and are saving the country from him, and therefore saving the world. They would want us to believe that Trump's given the order or gotten close to nuke North Korea, for example, but the adults are countermanding the order. Now, that's an example. That's not something people claim has happened. But the issue being raised here is two-pronged, okay? If this is happening, is Trump really this? I mean, this insane? Is this Trump really this? So much so that Tillerson, Mattis, and Kelly are having to run the country. Oh, and another group of people supposedly taking over running the country is the intelligence community. The intelligence community and the military in these stories are said to be actually running the country. And the other aspect of it is a constitutional crisis if this is happening and nobody's stopping it. And if Trump apparently is okay with it, then hell's bells here, folks. We've got the rise of the military-industrial complex having taken over the country, and nobody knows it yet. So that is the second prong of the two prongs I'm seeing written about here. And in both prongs, you have to ask, well, wait a minute now. If Trump is being regularly countermanded, for those of you in Rio Linda, that means not listened to. If Trump's orders are not being carried out, Trump obviously knows this, so why does he put up with it? If Trump is sitting there saying whatever he is saying about immigration and tax reform, and this all springs from his Twitter back and forth with Bob Corker, by the way, that's the starting point for this. And people are saying if Trump's aware of this, then he must be okay with it. If he's giving orders here and there and they're not being listened to and not being implemented and he's not complaining about it, then, well, it doesn't compute. Why is he putting up with this? This is what I shall attempt to answer as the program unfolds. Trump offers to compare IQ tests with Rex. Oh, my friends, I don't know. It just, I'm sorry, I cannot get upset about it. All I can do is laugh, and the laughter is so needed. And don't forget, I know the Trumpster, and I know how he's constantly challenging and bragging, and I know how much he loves having people like CNN and NBC and the New York Times running around trying to chase their tails. I know how much he loves just playing with them, toying with them. So all of this I'm able to put in some kind of context. But before we go into the constitutional crisis or supposed constitutional crisis, let's start, because they're going to dovetail, with the latest Trump in the NFL. And, of course, we can't discuss this without discussing the new Black Pantherette, Jemele Hill, who is recently suspended from, what are you looking at? New Black Pantherette. I mean, she's not a Huey Newton. I mean, the Black Panthers, they're one and alone, but the new Black Panther, she's a new Black Pantherette. These are the people that thwarted people's efforts to vote in Philadelphia. Dawn has got a worried look on. Oh, it's not about me. Okay. I use barometers on the other side of the glass to tell myself whether the media is going to get exercised over something I say. And okay, so Jemele Hill, the new Black Pantherette at ESPN, was not suspended for claiming that Trump was a white supremacist. But she has been suspended for violation of social media policy. ESPN has suspended the new Black Pantherette host, Jemele Hill, for what it said was a second violation of the network's social media guidelines on Monday. Jemele Hill, she is a radical, by the way. She's an angry radical. I mean, you can just tell as a viewer. You can just tell this. That better not offend her. She should be happy at that observation. That's the aura that she projects on ESPN. She said in a tweet that her followers should consider boycotting advertisers of Dallas Cowboys owner Jerry Jones after Jerry threatened to bench any player who kneels during the national anthem. The new Black Pantherette, Jemele Hill, has been suspended for 2 weeks for a second violation of our social media guidelines, said ESPN in a statement. She previously acknowledged letting her colleagues and company down with an impulsive tweet about Trump and white supremacy. In the aftermath, all employees were reminded of how individual tweets may reflect negatively on ESPN and that such actions would have consequences, the statement said. Now, as I point out, she was not suspended for calling Trump a white supremacist. I don't think ESPN Disney thought that reflected negatively on them, but this they think does. And this is about money. This is not about principle. What she did was go out and basically tell people to boycott her company. You can't separate the Dallas Cowboys from ESPN. Sponsors of the Dallas Cowboys are by inference and extension sponsors of the National Football League and thus sponsors of ESPN. And she's asking people to boycott those sponsors in protest to Jerry Jones acting. Oh, have you heard the latest? And I don't have a name. I just saw the link at a quick glance at the computer screen. But somebody now, I get the ESPN, I don't know. Somebody's comparing Jerry Jones to a modern-day slave owner. That this is slave oppression behavior. And, of course, it isn't. African-American players in the National Football League have no greater fan and no greater supporter than Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones idolizes his players. It's one. Oh, the rapper Common, the actor, the rapper Common. He's an angry guy, too. I mean, he's mad all the time. All these people are mad all the time. They'll see Trump threaten to beat Tillerson in an IQ test, and it'll ruin their day. They're so mad. Jerry Jones idolizes his players. That's one of the reasons, by the way, people have often criticized Jerry for being the general manager of the team. General manager runs the draft, essentially picks the roster, and people have said he's too close to it. He needs to hire a general manager with a little bit more objectivity. The reason is he idolizes these guys. There's no owner in the NFL who has more respect and appreciation for every player in the NFL, especially his own, and including the African-American players who make up 75% on average of every NFL roster. These allegations are just absurd. But I predicted this. I hate to remind you, when this concussion stuff started is when I predicted this. I said, wait till these people trying to damage this game figure out that they can make the slave owner connection based on the racial component. The stories were developing that the game kills people, that the game ruins the brains of players, then they leads them to commit suicide and die much earlier than average people that don't play the game, which, by the way, isn't true. And I said, you wait until some of these leftist critics figure out that they can claim that it's nothing more than modern-day slavery. Then who is it that's killing themselves for the entertainment of the white owners sitting safely away in the skyboxes above, never subjecting themselves to any of these injuries, but delighting in the injuries they witness their own employees experience? And now it's starting to happen. Not in conjunction with concussions, but in conjunction with all the rest of this. The NFL ownership is now becoming the equivalent of modern-day slave owners. And, of course, if any activist in any racial activist group makes the claim, the sports drive-by media is going to eagerly report it and amplify it and convene panel discussions on the premise. And there will be on ESPN a series of roundtable discussions. Are the NFL owners modern-day equivalents of slave owners? And you'll have a couple or three people, damn right, they'll say. And then others will say, no, I think we're going too far. And the never-ending formula once again is repeated that viewers have openly said they're tired of. And wish wasn't happening as part of the time they expend watching this game, looking for it to provide them an escape from the very kind of thing now being rammed down their throats when they watch it. Now, back to the new Black Pantherette, Jemele Hill. When she starts, I think a lot of these people literally do not understand the financial arrangements that result in the National Football League existing and a team existing and how it's owned, operated, makes a problem. I don't think because education, particularly economic education, is so woefully inept, that to them all this is funding and donors and funders are everywhere. But now we need to boycott them because things are going socially wrong in our league. And she doesn't understand. Or maybe she does, I don't know. That calling for a boycott of sponsors is actually asking for damage to occur to the place she works. And I don't think she has a grievance with ESPN, or she didn't before she was suspended. Her grievance was with the slave owners of the NFL and the president, the white supremacist in the White House. But I don't think she had a particular grievance. Maybe she does. People like this have a grievance about practically everything, including their Kellogg's cornflakes in the morning. So you never know. So we just got an audio soundbite. There's actual audio of the sting operation New York SVU, the Special Victims Unit, ran on Harvey Weinstein with the babe, Ambria Gutierrez. That's coming up. I got to get to the phones. I have to, even though it may change the momentum and the direction. Because I've invited these people to call, and they're here. So we start in Knoxville, Tennessee. This is Deb. It's great to have you. How are you?
Hi, Rush. How are you doing?
Fine, dandy. Thank you.
Well, I'm calling. I had 2 points. The first is that I'm very angry with Senator Corker's childish and disrespectful comments regarding the president. And I have been spent my whole morning, and as soon as the office opened, trying to reach someone in his office. Apparently, the rest of Tennessee is angry with him, too, because I can't get through. And my other comment is
Wait a minute. Hold
it.
it. Deb, just why specifically are you upset or angry with Senator Corker?
Because he's not doing the job that I sent him to Washington to do. Okay. And I think he's disrespecting and working against the president, along with some of the other senators that we currently have sitting in the Senate. So, needless to say, I am absolutely thrilled.
It's not that he's not doing his job. He openly said that he and his buddies in the Senate are in open defiance of Donald Trump, and that they will not allow Trump to succeed because Trump poses a danger, a threat, might start World War III. It's an adult, whatever he called it in there. This is outright, which is exactly, by the way, what we knew. What I knew was going on in there. This is insiders banding together to stop an outsider for the sake of protection of the establishment. It's pure, clean, and clear. That's what's going on. It's more than he's not doing his job. He's sabotaging.
Well, yes, he is.
The agenda of the American people.
You know, and so I was trying to get through to express my displeasure, but obviously the rest of Tennessee is trying to do the same thing because I can't get through to his office at all.
Let me tell you, he doesn't care. Deb, I'm going to tell you, he doesn't care. They don't care. They don't care what you, the voters, think. You are not who they are afraid of. They are afraid of others, lobbyists, donors, you name it. Even though he's not running anymore, he still needs a future to do something. And the people he's being loyal to here are going to have something to say about what his future is. They don't care about the voters. I am convinced of this. Welcome back. Your guiding light, Rush Limbaugh, America's real anchorman on the cutting edge of societal evolution. Donald Trump has praised Jerry Jones of the Dallas Cat Boys, threatening to bench anthem protesters. There were many calls for the league to come down hard on Jura. And it looks like the opposite is going to happen. I was looking at the sports drive-bys today, and they were livid, and they were eager. You can tell by the way they were writing. They were eager, awaiting what they thought was forthcoming. The league coming down hard on Jura Jones, telling him he can't say things like that. The way it's turning out, NFL owners consider rules change requiring players to stand. Things are moving in Jerry's direction. Well-known activist Al Sharpton is demanding that, what is it? To put it on the bottom of the stack. Al Sharpton, furious over Jamel Hill's suspension, says, "We won't stand for this." Grab the Mama Told Me Not To, Al Sharpton parody tune, one of our all-time favorites here from the Grooveyard of Forgotten Favorites. We'll have that coming up. Mike Ditka, the former coach of the Chicago Bears. He was on with Jim Gray on Westwood One's Monday Night Football pregame show, and Mike Ditka said, "There has been no oppression in the last 100 years that I know of." Now, maybe I'm not watching it as carefully as other people. I think the opportunity is there for everybody. Race, religion, creed, color, nationality. You want to work, you want to try, you want to put effort in, you can accomplish something. And we've watched that throughout our history of our country. Jim Gray was interviewing him. Ditka said, "I don't care who you are, how much money you make. If you don't respect our country, you shouldn't be in this country playing football. Go to another country and play." Then he was asked about sporting legends Muhammad Ali and Jesse Owens using their platforms for social justice. And Ditka said, "I don't know what social injustices there have been. Muhammad Ali rose to the top. Jesse Owens is one of the classiest individuals ever lived. Is everything based on color? I don't see it that way. You have to be colorblind in this country. You have to look at a person for what he is and what he stands for, how he produces. Not by the color of his skin. That's never had anything to do with anything." Ditka clearly doesn't get identity politics. Hasn't seen any oppression in the last 100 years. Muhammad Ali, what are you talking about? He rose to the top. He was the greatest ever. Where's the oppression? That's Ditka's thinking on this. And another ESPN host has decided that Trump is winning and they can't stand it. This host said that Trump is making football bow. And this is in reaction to the story that the owners and coaches are pressuring players to stop kneeling during the anthem. Another ESPN host, damn it, Trump's winning. Damn it, the league is bowing. And that takes me to one of the points that I want to make here today about Trump and people that still to this day do not understand him and what he's doing. And here it is in one sentence. With Donald Trump as president, the drive-by media cannot drive by stories as they please any longer. Remember what the definition of the drive-by media is. They arrive on the scene of some event and they blow it up. Filled with lies, misrepresentations, distortions, leaks, whatever, and they create and cause general havoc, and then they leave. And everybody else has to pick up the mess. People whose lives have been damaged or in some cases destroyed, institutions that were under assault, whatever. The drive-bys come in, they blow things up, and they head on down the road waiting for the next event. Well, with Donald Trump as president, the media is not allowed to behave as they normally behave. In other words, they're not getting away with driving by. Donald Trump is forcing every issue the drive-bys want to blow up. Donald Trump stays on that issue and counters them and fights against them and does not let them automatically create and drive the narrative. I think it is undeniable that Donald Trump serves as a roadblock, if you will, to the drive-by media. By this I mean that stories that might have come and gone, with issues and reputations all shot to hell and left to rot for the next narrative, these stories are kept alive. Trump can take to Twitter, make a comment, the media's next narrative comes to a screeching halt, and they're forced to return to the scene of their previous crime. The media had their way. Time to target the NFL over concussions? Do it. Players start protesting police brutality. Media blows that up, supports the players. Yes, America sucks. The cops are racist. Trump arrives on the scene. Media doesn't get the last word. Media doesn't get to own the story. Trump fights back. Trump keeps fighting back. Every response to Trump, he gives it right back again. The drive-bys do not get to own the narrative. And in so doing, Trump is emboldening others to fight back. It took a while in the NFL, but now here is Jerry Jones of the Dallas Cowboys fighting back. Not all the owners were on board with the media narrative in the first place, but they were silent. There were many owners that donated to Trump, voted for Trump, haven't said a word about this. Other people in their organizations have, but these particular owners or head honchos haven't. Trump forcing the issue back down the media's throat, back down the players' throat, keeping the media from reporting on the story in a way they wish they didn't have to. All of it's kept alive. Emboldening people to ultimately do the right thing or to bend to Trump's view on this, as is now happening. And the drive-bys are fit to be tied over it. The drive-bys in sports media are wishing the league would punish Jerry Jones for saying that his players that don't stand are not going to play. They want the league. They want the commissioner, who any other day of the week they despise. They want the commissioner to come out. They want him to fine Jerry Jones. They want him suspended. They want Jerry Jones made an example of. The story's now circulating that Jerry Jones is the epitome of modern-day slave owners. And Trump is not having it. Like I said, many times, this is what pushing back looks like. This is what fighting back looks like. It's not going to be pretty. It's going to be messy. The drive-bys and their agents on the left are used to getting their way. They get to write the narrative of the story. They get to decide who gets punished. They get to decide who gets harmed, and then they're done. On the road down to the next event to cause the same type of thing. Trump is keeping them at the scene of the crime. Trump is not letting them define things. For example, Donald Trump is not going to let the Colin Kaepernick-inspired anthem and flag protest go until he's good and ready to let them go. And because Trump is not done with them, there is a better chance of a long-term resolution to this rather than a continued deterioration. Because Trump stays on it. Because Trump doesn't let go and doesn't let others up for air. The league is going to be forced to do the right thing and deal with this and shut it down so people can return free and able to watch a football game without being preached to by a bunch of radicals. The solution is going to be for the players to find some other way to express their grievance, but not on the stage they don't own. They're not going to be silenced. They're not going to be shut down. They're just going to be told, you can't do it on my stage, buddy. You don't own it, and I am not going to support this. That's a dire consequence change from the original owner reaction. The original owner reaction was based in fear and fright. They all felt they had to join the players in this or otherwise lose their locker rooms and maybe, in the worst-case scenario, deal with players who would not show up and play. And so they took the path of least resistance, which was letting the inmates run the asylum, and not Trump, though. There's going to be conflict, but direct confrontation is better than leaving an infected wound untreated. A bitter, direct confrontation that emerges, or that where victory emerges, the right thing ends up happening, is worth it. Trump's tweet about ESPN this morning has added a new dimension. ESPN's attached to the NFL's hip. Multiple billion-dollar industries are at risk of alienating lots of zeros off of their checks. This call for a sponsor boycott? Guess who's not putting up with this? Not just ESPN, it's Trump joining the fray. It would be easy. Give you another example. It would be easy to let Republicans drop the ball on Obamacare and then blame them in 2020. It'd be easy to let the Republicans drop the ball on tax reform or immigration. You remember the drive-by said Obamacare's dead. Obamacare's the law of the land. Nobody told Trump he's still fighting for it. The drive-by said tax reform, not enough time to do it. Isn't going to get done by Thanksgiving. Congress isn't going to do anything. They're proclaiming victory over Trump. Trump says, wait a minute, I'm not through here. We're going to get tax reform. We're going to get immigration done. Introduces a 70-point immigration plan. Tells Chuck and Nancy, if you want your dreamer deal, you're going to get along with all the rest of these points. We're going to build a wall. Chuck and Nancy expectedly say, no way, Jose. Everybody else would have dropped it. When the media said it's over, Obamacare remains a law of the land. Other Republicans, and they did. Okay, well, we tried. Our voters know we tried. And we'll kick the can down the road, and we'll stop them on the debt ceiling in 6 months. That's where we'll really confront them, which we've been hearing for 7 years. But they never confront and they never stop. Trump is keeping these issues alive. He's keeping the issue alive in the process. He's making it possible to kill Obamacare. By continuing to return to Obamacare as an issue, he keeps pressure on Republicans to act. The media can't just move on. The media can't proclaim victory for the Democrats or for Obama on Obamacare, as they did, because Trump doesn't let go of it. They have to cover what President Trump says and does. And if he says we're still going to build a wall and we're going to have a massive immigration reform plan with these 70 things in it, they've got to cover it. They can't say Trump lost. Just like they can't say Trump lost to the players of the NFL. The media is 100% invested in protecting the legacy of Barack Hussein. Oh, if Trump even hints at diminishing Obama's regulations or policies, the media has to speed back to the issue, hoping to shoot down Trump's plans before he acts. But it is Trump that is driving the train. It is Trump driving the issue. It's Trump refusing to let ultimate victory be claimed by the Democrats or by the media. He will not let border safety go. The media would love nothing more to leave that issue for dead and to claim that Trump lost. Not going to happen. The drive-by media is as worried today as Hillary Clinton. They're all asking, what the hell is happening? We've got the dumbest guy we've ever had in the White House. We got a guy who doesn't know what he's doing. He's an open idiot. He's such a clown that he's not even running the country. His subordinates have to run the country because he's so dangerous, and yet he keeps beating them. This is what pushing back looks like. This is what Trump is, a roadblock to the drive-by media. I got to take a break, folks. We'll be back. And we go back to the phones to reward people patiently waiting. Steve in Orange County, California. Hi, what's happening?
So, Rush, I don't know if you're the world's greatest setup man or what, but what you were just saying about Trump is what I was calling about, which is that people forget he's a real estate developer, and he spent his whole career being told no for years and years until finally someone said yes, and he made it happen. And so the media, the drive-bys, they cover what he does almost like a failed jailbreak attempt every week, right? And it's sensational, and look at this, we got Trump again, right? But meanwhile, he's breaking out of jail more like that guy in Shawshank Redemption, like 3 pocketfuls of dirt every day, and then one day he's gone, right? So Trump's got the patience and the determination to just wear everybody down. I think people forget that he's used to dealing in time frames that are years or even a decade long, and they'll have a detention span that lasts like 8 minutes.
Well, the thing about his timeline that he's working on, I think you're right about, but the important point you made is actually an echo of a point I just made. But I'm not accusing you of anything because you called before I said it. Trump is the one. Folks, ask yourself. I remember the Drudge headline. It was a lead headline above the fold of the Drudge Report. Obamacare, law of the land, after the supposed last vote had failed. One of many so-called bills in the Republican Senate. And, of course, Susan Collins and whoever the hell else, Murkowski voted no, and McCain. And everybody said, that's it. Obamacare survives Trump. And yet, who is still trying to get rid of it? Just today, while sitting next to Henry Kissinger, Trump said, the reason I call the Democrats is because it's imploding. It's hurting people. We've got to do something about it. Trump doesn't take no for an answer. How many times have they claimed in the drive-by media that Obamacare has failed for good since March? Why is Trump still even messing with it? The media has told us at least 3 times since March that every effort to get rid of it has failed, and it is now with us forever. And yet, Trump's still on the case. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Roadblock for the drive-by media. He's not letting them move on after they have, in their own minds, successfully repelled yet another Republican attempt. And the same thing's happening on tax reform and a number of other things. Immigration, you name it. He's not letting go. Defeat is not permanent with him. We have actual audio of an SVU, Police Department Special Victims Unit sting Harvey Weinstein. It's from 2015, secretly recorded by one of his victims. That's coming right up. Hang on. The views expressed by the host on this program are riveting the people of this nation and in many places around the world because in all four corners of the world, I have become a household name. It's great to have you here, folks. The telephone number, if you want to be on the program, 800-282-2882, and the email address, lrushbo@eibnet.us. Now, I mentioned earlier in our Harvey Weinstein segments that one of the women that Harvey Weinstein cornered in a narrow hallway and attempted to force himself upon her reported him to the SVU department, the NYPD, Special Victims Unit. And what she told them, they said wasn't enough for any action, any charges. They asked her to go back and actually accept his invitation for another meeting, which she had declined because she was repulsed, and wear a wire. And she did it. Now, even this, according to what I read, was not enough for them to move forward with felony charges. But they wanted to, and the story was headlined, the NYPD wanted to arrest Harvey Weinstein. This is back a couple of years ago. Well, Mia Farrow's son, Ronan Farrow, has a blockbuster piece in the New Yorker in which he reveals 3 women who now claim that Harvey Weinstein raped them, and other women who allege actual abuse, not just little come-ons like, hey, you want to watch me take a shower? Hey, you want to give me a massage in my bathrobe here? You know, this kind of stuff. Now, the woman's name, who went to SVU, was a Filipina-Italian model by the name of Ambra Gutierrez. Gutierrez, for those of you in Rio Linda, but it's Gutierrez. And in this, Weinstein admits, they wanted her to go back and get Weinstein to admit somehow what he had done to her the day before, whenever she had met with him. Now, Ronan Farrow, still under 30, I think. If not, he's right at 30. They gave him a show on MSNBC. He had never been on TV. They gave him a show, a primetime show, and after like 2 episodes, they gave him the Cronkite Journalism Excellence Award or some such thing. And then they fired him a couple weeks later because it wasn't working. So he's writing stuff now. And I can't believe, I mean, this is the New York, this is the literary community of New York, and they've got Weinstein in their sights, both barrels. And when there's stories last week that the New York Times had a blockbuster coming, there was also news that the New Yorker had one coming too, but we didn't know it was Ronan. No, we did know. I did know it was Ronan Farrow that was writing. Well, his story hits today. Here is, it's not the whole tape, of course, it's edited, but this is salient points here. It's about 50 seconds of and it's from the New Yorker website. They've released audio of the sting operation with Amber Gutierrez trying to get Harvey Weinstein.
I'm going to take a shower. You sit there and have a drink. Water.
I don't drink.
You must come here now.
No.
Please.
No, I don't want to.
I'm not doing anything with you.
I'm sorry. I cannot. No, yesterday was a kind of aggressive for me. I need to know a person to be touched.
I won't do a thing. Please, I swear I won't. Just sit with me. Don't embarrass me in the hotel. I'm here all the time. Please, 1 minute.
No,
I ask
can't.
you. Go to the bathroom.
Please, I don't want to do something I don't want to.
Go to the bathroom. Come here. Listen to me.
I want to go downstairs.
I'm not going to do it.
I don't feel comfortable.
I mean, don't have a fight with me in the hall.
It's not nice.
Please, I'm not going to do anything. I swear, my children. Please come in. I'm a famous guy.
I'm feeling very uncomfortable right now.
Please come in now. And 1 minute. And if you want to leave, when the guy comes with my jacket, you can go.
Yesterday you touched my breast.
Oh, please, I'm sorry. Just come on. I'm used to that.
But
Come on.
you're used to that?
Yes.
So now it's sort of out there when it changes. Even though you have the details of the story, when you hear the pleading and the begging. Anyway, there are probably going to be some people with odd interpretations of this, but since I've been talking about it, there it is. Okay, we're moving on now to yet another subject that I said we're going to get to before the program ends, and that this leads into it, and that is Trump actually president, or as many in the conservative media, certainly on the left as well, are writing, Kelly, Mattis, and Tillerson and the intelligence community are actually running the country. They're refusing to implement Trump's orders, and A, is that good? B, is this a constitutional crisis? C, why is Trump putting up with it if it is happening? Now, what starts it all? Well, I can't say it starts it because these stories have been in the germination stage. The deep state has been leaking for a while that the chief of staff and McMaster, too. This is the military and the intelligence community are officially attempting to stop Trump and are openly defying his orders on anything while telling him they're going to do it, and they don't do it in order to save the country and so forth. And people are asking all kinds of questions about it. The Corker incident has brought it above the surface. Let us start audio soundbite 7. This is last night, Anderson Cooper speaking with the writer for the New York Times, Jonathan Martin, about Trump's feud with Corker. Question: Jonathan, the idea that nearly every Senate Republican agrees with Corker, I don't know. That sounds kind of terrifying to me.
It's revealing is what it is. To ask all 52 Republican senators, really, folks, do you not agree with Senator Corker, or are you just saying that for public consumption? Because all of us who work in Washington have had conversations privately with them, and they roll their eyes at President Trump.
This is the contention that Trump's dangerous, that Trump's incompetent, that he's a boob, that if he's left alone, he's going to start World War III, and that the White House is simply an adult daycare center where Mattis and McMaster and Tillerson are the headmasters, and Trump is the 6-year-old that they're trying to keep in control and so forth. And this point was that all 52 Republican senators agree with Corker. That's what Martin was saying. So yesterday on the New York Times website, they released audio excerpts of the interview that Martin did with Corker. And Martin said to Corker, do you think the country's in jeopardy?
He doesn't realize that, that we could be heading towards World War III with the kind of comments that he's making. And it's like it's an act to come, and sure that bothers me just from the standpoint of, I know that he's necessarily a warmonger. I don't believe that he is a warmonger in any way. Watch his performances, it very much feels to me like he thinks as president he's on a reality television show. And I don't think he understands that the messages that he sends out.
So there you have it. That is, and apparently, according to Jonathan Martin, that is essentially what all 52 Republican senators think of Donald Trump. That he doesn't know what he's doing. That, listen to the comments he's making. It's like an act. It's like this is a reality show. It's like The Apprentice White House, and it's all an act to him, and he's just having fun. He doesn't know what he's doing. Somebody has to be an adult. Somebody has to be serious. Now, the assumptions here are everything I've told you and everything that you figured out on your own. They simply cannot abide an outsider coming in and taking over their turf. And in the process, they have to portray the outsider as a total dunderhead and a fool and an idiot and nowhere near sophisticated or accomplished enough or competent enough to deal with the serious issues they deal with every day. By definition, Donald Trump must be portrayed as a childish, immature boob, totally out of his element and doesn't know it. Bob Corker here has revealed exactly why none of the Trump agenda is ever going to get through this Senate. And that's what you have to keep in mind. The Trump agenda simply is as the Trump agenda. It will not be moved through the Senate. This, to me, confirms every instinct I've had that it's not the Democrats stopping Trump, it's the Republicans. The Democrats, too, don't misunderstand, but they would naturally stop Trump. That's their job. The fact that the Republicans have joined them illustrates this insider versus outsider dynamic to a T. Bob Corker said one other thing.
It's concerning to me. A lot of people think that there's some good cop, bad cop act underway, but that's just not true. It's like he's doing The Apprentice or something. You know, he's just putting on an act.
I know he's not a warmonger. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's just acting. He doesn't take it seriously. You know, this is world order stuff. This is important United Nations kind of thing. He doesn't even take it seriously. You can see it in his eyes. He doesn't even know what he's doing. So they went to Mitch McConnell, Paris, Kentucky yesterday. Mitch spoke with reporters about the feud between Trump and Corker.
Senator Corker is a valued member of the Republican caucus in the Senate and a key player on the budget. We're going to be turning to the budget next week, and he'll be a big help in helping us get it passed.
We're going to turn to the budget next week. Corker be a big help helping us get it passed. Really? Van Jones, the avowed communist from the Obama administration, now at CNN, weighed in last night on what he thinks of Bob Corker.
I don't know Corker, but he's my home state senator. And even as a Republican, I've never had a cause to feel anything other than proud of him and the decorum and the way that he's conducted himself as a senator.
Well,
so this is not a firebrand. This is not an irresponsible guy. This is one of our best senators, and he's saying something very serious.
Yes, right. I don't even know who the guy is. I know Corker's my senator, my home state, but man, is he good. Oh, wow, is he really, really, really conducted himself in a way I'm really, really proud of him. I never had cause to feel anything other than proud of Bob Corker. Yeah, that's right. Spare me. The truth of the matter is that were this not happening and Corker running for re-election, Van Jones would be in there trying to smother the guy and defeat him right along with the rest of the Democrat Party. So this takes us to Hannity last night and his guest Steve Bannon, who I, last week, during our 4.5 hour, said that the way to understand what Bannon is doing as he runs around and gets involved in the Alabama election, for example, and others, Steve Bannon, there's a vacuum. The Republican Party has ceased to exist. The Republican Party has decided to throw in with the Democrats, essentially, to stop Trump and the Trump agenda. So what I've said is that Bannon is actually filling the role out there that the Republican Party would normally be doing. So Hannity had Bannon on last night, and during a discussion of the feud with Corker, Bannon starts with this.
He said there's only 2 or 3 senators on Capitol Hill that have President Trump's back. When you want to talk about why there's no repeal and replace, why there's no tax cut, why there's no tax reform, why there's no infrastructure bill, you saw it right there. McConnell and Corker and the entire clique, establishment globalist clique on Capitol Hill, have to go. If Bob Corker has any honor, any decency, he should resign immediately.
So this is the natural fallout from this. I mean, Corker, this is essentially mutiny with inside party politics, except it isn't, because Corker is a member of the establishment and he's, one of the insiders. And it's now abundantly clear, just as Bannon says here, this is it. Now you know why the Trump agenda isn't moving forward. The sad thing here is really, and I've said this a number of times, if they would just 3 weeks, 3 months, whatever, 5 months work with Trump to move this agenda forward, they could wipe the Democrat Party out for a generation. But they don't want to do that. The Republican Party, as it's constituted inside the Beltway, has no desire to defeat the Democrat Party. None. Sean Hannity says, is Steve Bannon declaring war on the establishment that are not working for the men and women of this country?
We are declaring war on the Republican establishment that does not back the agenda that Donald Trump ran on. It's a new game in town. We're going to cut off the oxygen to Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell's biggest asset is the money. We're going to make it the biggest liability. And we're going after ththese guys tooth and nail.
This is what the Republican Party would normally be doing, is trying to find ways to get the agenda of their president advanced. Hannity said, does this mean that the people that voted in 2010 and 2014, 2016, now they have to wait for another victory in 2018 before anything moves?
To take your country back, it's not going to happen in just any one election. This is something you're going to have to grind out day in and day out for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. It took us a long time to get here. There's no magic wand we can wave and drain the swamp. There's no magic wand we can wave and blow up this establishment. I hate to tell people you're going to have to work. Even safe incumbents like Barrasso and Deb Fisher, they have to understand something. Just voting is not good enough. You have to have a sense of urgency. Nobody's safe. We're coming after all of them, and we're going to win.
That's essentially what I informed you was happening last week in the fourth and a half hour. The difference now is that with Corker, we have it on the table. They have admitted. Corker's a respected member of the Senate. You heard Mitch McConnell sing his praises. So they have now opened up and admitted what their purpose is, and that is there isn't a Trump agenda. It's not moving anywhere in the Senate. Whatever happens in here is what we want to happen, and if it's the Democrat agenda, fine, but it isn't going to be Trump's. And they've said it. It's no longer a matter of speculation, folks. Okay, back to the phones. I guess somebody wants to weigh in on Bannon last night on Hannity. It's Neil in Matthews, North Carolina. Hi.
Hey, Rush, for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
Hey, listen, as a Trump supporter from the get-go, I wasn't under any illusion that he would get much of his agenda implemented, specifically because of the establishment Republicans in the Senate, Speaker Ryan. And I will admit that I was getting a little worried until last night I heard Steve Bannon on Hannity laid out the battle plan. So I'm greatly encouraged by his words. And I want to know, what is your take on all of this? I mean, do you think that is a plan moving forward?
What specifically are you referring to? The comment that you can't win it all in one election, or you can't change everything in one election?
Yeah, that was it. I mean, like he said, you'd have to wave a magic wand and get rid of the establishment. The swamp's not going to drain itself. You unplug it someplace else, and it plugs back up.
Well, here's the point. What Bannon said that is, I think, right on the money. And if it encouraged you, fine. I remember telling everybody, not just before this election, but I did specifically before this, that one election isn't enough. It's just one election. You can't, if we win the White House, even with the House and Senate, that it doesn't mean that overnight all this stuff is going to change, because Trump isn't going to have any allies from the beginning. Trump winning automatically meant that practically everybody in Washington was going to be opposed and do everything they could to stop him. And in that sense, it's absolutely correct. And it's not just one election for president. There are a number of elections all over the country that have to also be won. And then after the elections are won, action has to follow. We won the House, the Senate, we have the White House after the 2016 elections, and look at it. The victorious election didn't by itself mean anything. It now requires action moving forward. That was Bannon's point to John Barrasso. They're saying he's a senator from Wyoming, and people have pointed out he's got a 95% conservative rating from all the groups. And Bannon's point was, that's fine, but you got to do more than vote. You have to join the movement. You have to understand there's a sense of urgency, that there is a crisis. My point all along has been to you in this audience that the problem is that the people in Washington don't think the country is in crisis. They don't think that the country's threatened by things. Everything in their world is just fine. And they think you're nuts if you think we're in danger of losing the country, quote unquote. Let me put this another way. Whatever this is that Trump personifies right now, this movement, if you want to call it that, if it's going to succeed, it has to survive Trump, even if Trump serves 2 terms. And that's what I mean when I say you can't change everything in one election. The other side never admits to losing. I mean, one of the reasons the left is acting as insane as they are is that they refuse to accept they lost. They cheated. They were cheated against. They just don't accept it. Republicans do. Republicans lose. They admit it and say the Democrats won, and they get their judges. And the Democrats won, and they get their cabinet members, and they get their appointees. Whatever they want, the Republicans rubber stamp it all the way through, trying to show the voters of America that they can cooperate and that good governance can happen. Democrats try to stop everything. This NFL stuff is part of all. It's why we spend so much time on it. The NFL story is a microcosm of all of the things that are out of whack and need to be recalibrated. We're talking about the value and moral structure of the country, the foundational guardrails that define the distinct American culture. Those things have been under assault for decades. And one election, just because the left loses, they don't say to themselves, wow, you know what? People really don't agree with what we want. We have to change. That's not how they react to losing. They say the hell with this and force on people what they believe and what people don't want, and it doesn't matter. And what is happening in the NFL, the way Trump is fighting back on it and not letting it go, is an example of how all these things are going to have to be dealt with if there is to be change, because the people who have, from our perspective, screwed all of this up are not going to one day realize that they've screwed up and go away. So I keep telling every audience I speak to, they're going to have to be defeated. And that requires a daily engagement in battle, which is what Bannon's talking about. He says, Barrasso, it's not enough that he votes. That's good. But is he on the battlefield? This, frankly, is a problem in the conservative movement, folks. I'm not trying to irritate people, but the definition of success that the left has is much different than ours. For example, the left's definition of success is really overtaking the country, and if they have to, forcing what they believe on everybody and requiring people to behave and think the way they demand. Conservative success is a gig on Fox and a book deal for a lot of people. Dream realized. Or a gig on CNN, but it's media success is dream realized. Moving the movement's agenda, I don't know if I want to be that much out front, I don't know. Snerdley's looking at me like he can't believe I just said that. Why? Am I wrong about it? No. Oh, I'm hitting a raw nerve? I didn't name any names. What do you mean they know who they are? Well, then those who lash back at me are going to be those who know who they are? Is that what you mean? There won't be any lashback precisely because of that. Anyway, Hillary Clinton has emerged from the primordial gunk and weighed in on Harvey Weinstein. She broke her silence, saying such behavior cannot be tolerated and that it is appalling. Also, Gwyneth Paltrow, and who else? Gwyneth Paltrow and Jolie have come forward and said that Weinstein abused them. Now, they are two of the cadre that people theorized would not come forward precisely because Weinstein made their careers. But they have come forward and said that Weinstein did effectively abuse them. I just saw on CNN, somebody was asking Chris, do you think Bill Clinton will have a statement on Weinstein? So are you crazy? Clinton's not going to say a word. He's going to totally rely on Hillary to carry this water. Bill can't say diddly squat. You all remember when the NFL scandal began? Now, the scandal, but when Trump first called out the NFL and suggested that the owners should fire these SOBs for not standing. Do you remember do you remember what I said? Among the many things. Do you remember what I said? I said, no way Trump does not win this thing. There is no way Trump loses this. Everybody else said, why did he do this? There's no way Trump can win this. I said, The exact opposite. There's no way you can lose standing up for the flag and the anthem and the American military. The people that are going to lose are the people who want permission to openly disrespect it or protest against it. I have here in my formerly nicotine-stained fingers a memo from the commissioner of the National Football League, Roger Goodell, sent to chief executives and club presidents. Today, subject, fall meeting / national anthem. It opens thus. We live in a country that can feel very divided. Sports, and especially the NFL, brings people together and lets them set aside those divisions, at least for a few hours. Do you see where this is going? The current dispute over the national anthem is threatening to erode the unifying power of our game and is now dividing us and our players from many fans across the country. I'm very proud of our players, and I'm very proud of our owners who have done the hard work over the past year to listen, to understand, to attempt to address the underlying issues within their communities. Like many of our fans, we believe that everyone should stand for the national anthem. It is an important moment in our game. We want to honor our flag and our country, and our fans expect that of us. We also care deeply about our players and respect their opinions and concerns about critical social issues. The controversy over the anthem is a barrier to having honest conversations and making real progress on the underlying issues. We need to move past this controversy, and we want to do that together with our players. Translation: Commissioner Goodell of the National Football League has sent a memo to owners, executives, and presidents to stand for the national anthem. What happened to him? What do you mean, what happened to him? No, of course it was. I told you there's no way the people standing for the right to oppose the flag, disrespect the flag, the anthem, the military, there's no way that was going to end up winning this, that Trump was going to win it. What's happening, have you seen the TV ratings? Now you've got ESPN and new Black Panther anchors calling for a boycott of sponsors to both the NFL and ESPN, unknowingly, I think. You've got television ratings dropping. You have got fewer and fewer people going to the games. What's happened is the NFL's learned who its audience is. What do you mean, what's happened? I know they all were. They all were thinking this Trump guy's a buffoon. He can't tell us what our players are the greatest players in the world. This is why you keep fighting. This is why you don't let the issue go, why you don't let the media decide who wins and who loses it. There's only one reason this happened. Only one. No, that's not true, because actually the fans made this happen. But without Donald Trump, the fans would not have been listened to. Without Donald Trump, the fans would have you. Guaranteed, folks. I'm telling you, this is what everybody's talking about when they say you don't win it all in one election. Once you win the election, this is the kind of stand up to this stuff that has to happen. issue by issue. Yesterday we had some devastating news about the impossibility of getting rid of the gasoline-powered engine for automobiles in California. Get this, the Ferrari CEO, Sergio Marchionne, says that electric cars may not be as clean as people think, may not be saving the planet at all. We'll have details on this and some other things held over from today tomorrow. We will see you then. Thank you, El Mucho, for being with us today.